When should you leave a relationship that's no longer serving you? A lot of people struggle with wanting to stay in the relationship, hoping it gets better, not wanting to not try. They want to make sure that they've done everything that they can before the relationship separates. And it's a question I get asked a lot. When is it time to leave? What's my advice around it? I stayed in 2 relationships that held domestic violence for longer than I should have. And it can take a woman, and I speak from female victim, male perpetrator lens, because that's my experience, and I would never try to explain or talk about another's experience that I don't understand. So it can take women about 7 times to leave an abusive and toxic relationship. And the reason why it can take that long is because there are a number of complicated factors. Generally, when you've got children together, when you've got a business together, when you share assets, it can be really complicated and really messy. And sometimes it just feels like it's easier and safer to stay in the relationship. But when is it time to leave a relationship? I want to start off by saying that your relationship does not have to be abusive. Your partner doesn't have to be violent or aggressive in order for you to want to end the relationship. There is no prerequisite that there has to be abuse and violence or, any criminal offenses for you to want to leave. If you're not happy in a relationship and you don't feel that it's healthy for you, or that it's beneficial for you, or that it helps with your growth, you're allowed to end the relationship whether there's any violence or not. When abuse begins, it can be really hard to detect to begin with, because there are facets of domestic violence which include love bombing, gaslighting. There is manipulation, there's control, there's jealousy that is disguised as caring for you and wanting to protect you, wanting to keep you safe. Domestic violence it's that complicated set of behaviors. It's a complex set of behaviors where one partner attempts to control another one's actions, behavior, what they wear, what they do, who they befriend, their hobbies, their interests, the way that they parent. And it can be really hard to detect in the beginning stages, which is why a lot of people, many years in will say, I can't believe I didn't see it. I can't believe I missed all of those red flags. It's because it creeps up on you. Almost like there is a story, and I'm actually not sure how true it is, but there is a story that says if you put a frog into a pot of water and then turn the heat up, it will just stay there while the water starts to boil. If you put a frog into a pot of boiling water, it would jump out. But when the heat is just turned up and it simmers and it just gradually heats up and starts to boil, the frog will stay there because it's something that's just come about over a period of time, and it's harder to understand and to realize and to define. A young friend once asked me, we were out having dinner, and she said to me, how do I know whether I stay? How do I know whether I try harder? And my response to her was, what you're living right now, if you are happy to be living this way in this relationship in 6 months' time, in a year's time, in 5 years' time, if you're happy with that, then by all means stay. But if there is something happening within that relationship and it's causing you to feel a certain way, generally that, a degraded, unworthiness kind of feeling, if your relationship makes you feel that way, and you have spoken to your partner about what the things are that, they may say or behave or not do that causes you to feel, hurt, fearful, rejected, misunderstood, frustrated, confused, or not important, If you have spoken to your partner about that and they acknowledge, firstly, if they don't acknowledge the way that you feel, that there's not really anywhere to go from that. Because if they don't acknowledge the way that you feel, then they're not interested in changing anything, and it won't change. If they acknowledge how you feel and tell you that they're going to change or seek counseling, seek help, seek, alcohol and drug counseling, or any number of things, related to the behavior that doesn't feel good, that is abuse, that is aggression, that is violent. If they acknowledge it, say they're going to change, and then they don't follow through with any supports, any services, any phone calls, any appointments, then they're not ready to change, or they don't believe that they should change for you. And again, if you're happy to live with this same behavior for the next 5 years, then that's probably what's going to happen. Unless you want something better, and unless you believe you're worthy of something better, which you absolutely are, then that's the time to leave. When your partner disrespects you, abuses you, is violent, hurts you, threatens you, and if they A, don't acknowledge it, or B, acknowledge it and then do nothing about it, that's the time to leave. Because you need to feel safe and respected and supported and loved. And when you don't feel like that, it hurts you to your very core. It really does damage your mind, body, and soul. It creates trauma when you do not feel that you are an equal, or that your voice is heard, or that you are important in the relationship. That's the time to leave, is when nothing's going to change. And I absolutely believe people can change. I have changed so much in the last few years, but I've also made those appointments and read widely and studied and researched different therapies, healing modalities, different ways to boost my confidence, to increase my self-esteem, to increase my worthiness. I've made those steps to, seeing counselors, to seeing psychologists. I've engaged in other activities, that nurture my mind, body, and spirit, in the way of massage, chiropractic, keeping myself safe, creating that safety through meditation, through emotional regulation, reducing the anxiety, reducing stress. Those are the things that I have done in response to some behaviors and actions, some traumas, some trauma responses, some triggers that I've experienced along the way. If I'd done nothing about them, then I'm not at the point where I know I need to change and I'm ready to change my behavior. If somebody doesn't seek out that help, they're not ready to change. And there is no amount of making appointments, making phone calls, encouraging, recommending, finding referrals that will give you the ability to fix them if they're not interested in fixing themselves. You can't want it more than them, and you can't put in more effort than they do. So that's where it's up to with, it's your decision. It becomes your choice. And I know it's really hard. I stayed in my first relationship with domestic violence for probably around 5 years longer than I should have. I wasn't ready to leave before I left though, and I still deal with the consequences of staying for that period of time. I have done a lot of personal development, a lot of healing to do with, things that I did or situations that I stayed in. The biggest one is the guilt for what I put my kids through, for what my kids grew up with, what they experienced, and what impacted them from that relationship and from the trauma that was there. I deal with that, but I probably should have left 5 years earlier than what I did. My second relationship, which did become abusive as well, I stayed there absolutely 6 months longer than I should have, and probably a year longer. Again, I wanted to believe that they would change, that things would get better, because I'd seen a different side of them. There was also stuff going on in my life that I felt that I just needed to give it another shot. There was also some shame and embarrassment around separating from the father of my kids and then another relationship, and feeling like I had failed, or that I wasn't, worthy of being loved or wanted or in that relationship. So my name is Lisa. I founded Lisa Sanctuary. I am a victim survivor thriver of childhood abuse and domestic violence. And I'm on a mission to really help people, really support people to heal their trauma, heal the pain. I want to make a difference in this healing space. And it is time to leave when you are not being respected, when you don't feel equal, when you don't see any change or any progress being made. I absolutely believe in looking within ourselves too. What can I do to improve my life, my relationship, my situation? There is absolutely nothing wrong, and so many great things about improving your own self and really engaging in activities that promote healing and understanding and compassion and confidence and self-acceptance. But when it's not being reciprocated, when everything's being blamed on you, or you don't see any progress, you don't see any changes to the way that you're spoken to or about or treated, then it's time to leave. And how you leave it needs to be planned, especially if you are in an abusive relationship, because we know that the most dangerous time for a woman to leave, the most dangerous time in a relationship is when a woman is planning to leave or has left. And in that, it sort of varies between 3 to 12 months after separation, because it increases the risk of harm. So absolutely plan to leave, engage support services around you, have code words with people, have bags packed, have, your important documents together, know where you're going to go, because I know that was my biggest thing. Sometimes I just grabbed us and threw us in the car, and without any further planning, wasn't sustainable to just separate right then and there and move forward. There had to be some planning in there. But when you don't feel like the relationship is contributing to your growth and really nurturing and supporting who you are, then it's time to leave, because you deserve more than that. You deserve to feel safe at home, to feel loved, to feel that you belong, and to feel supported. And so do your kids. If you have children there, so do they. So it's not easy. I've been there. It's not easy, but you are worthy of so much more. You are significant because you are, and I love you because you exist. This is Lisa from Lisa Sanctuary. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. Really looking forward to sharing more on my healing journey, my victim survivor thriver journey, and hoping to help as many people as possible.